are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's episode, we have a special episode for you. Today, Monty Williams was introduced as the next Detroit Pistons head coach at the press conference today at the Pistons practice facility. Tom Gores and general manager Troy Weaver accompanied him on stage. And I mean, there's a lot of sound bites from this press conference. And I just want to take some time to talk about it because, yes, okay, when Monty talks, very calm presence. He's not much of a big personality guy, but I mean, there's something about him that just makes me truly believe that like he's going to bring a lot of success to the Pistons organization. What are some things that you want to note that he talked about?
So my biggest thing for me was the fact of his point in what impact he wants to make on the city of Detroit, in the sense that he made the comment, I want to win so much that everybody thinks I'm from Detroit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and he used Dave Bing as an example. Dave Bing originally
Yep.
from DC and then making such a big impact as a player for the Pistons in Detroit, then becoming the mayor of Detroit. I really like that thought. And then also Troy Weaver. Troy Weaver, when Monty's talking about him, it really seems Troy Weaver was so aggressive with him. And that's
Yeah.
why I continue to say Troy Weaver is an absolute genius. I think that he is so smart. And what Monty really had to say about Troy was he liked the word restore, not rebuild, because why would you want to rebuild something that's already been great? Just restore it. So I love that. That was something that really stuck out to Monty in Troy Weaver's pitch. And then also Troy Weaver saying that, you know, the players don't need Monty. Monty needs the players. These are the players he needs to succeed. And I loved that too. I'm like, dude, Troy Weaver, you should be selling insurance or cars or something. Like your sales pitch is just incredible. I loved what he had to say. And I could tell that a lot of those like quotes and things that he was texting Monty really stuck with Monty. I can tell that like, okay, yeah, Troy's kind of selling me. I think Monty loved it.
Yeah, and then you look at what Monty said about how appreciative he was that all of the players were there. I mean, Bojan wasn't there. We don't know why he wasn't there. Most likely, he was probably just back home in his home country.
Yeah.
But the fact remains, every single player showed up. Even Buddy Boeheim and Jared Roden.
Yeah.
Everybody showed up, and that meant a lot to Monty because he sees it as this group of guys is just so young and inexperienced that you when you introduce a new head coach, you don't expect every guy to be there, especially with a young team, but
No.
every single guy was there.
Yeah, the fact that those players were even in Detroit is a shock. Like, you know, I'm a Packers fan. So every offseason, Aaron Rodgers spends all his off seasons in California. He's not spending any extra time in Green Bay. So, like, for me as a fan that has experienced that, it's so nice to see the guys in Detroit and at a press conference. It's not like press conferences are the most fun thing to watch. It's not like there's going to be anything totally groundbreaking, but the guys still decided that they wanted to sit there and watch the media address their new head coach. And Monty already this morning, you know, addressed them as a team. And one thing I really liked that Troy Weaver did too was right when the Phoenix Suns season came to a close, the Pistons season had already been finished for a couple weeks. And as soon as Monty got fired, Troy Weaver sending pictures of the guys in the practice facility getting shots up, being like, you know, this is the team you could be coaching. They're in the gym in May here in Detroit when most guys are in Cancun and Hawaii, just, you know, drinking martinis and on the beach, you know. No, the Detroit Pistons players are in the practice facility getting that work in. And I love that he did that because as a coach, that goes a long way. It's not necessarily just the tone a coach sets, it also starts with the players. So I loved that Troy, I just think he'd be a great sales guy. I thought it was, if you're going to try to get a high caliber coach like Monty Williams, you got to pull out all the stops. And Troy Weaver did that.
Yeah, and I will say what listening to Monty talk about the team and just how our team is already, it really felt like the bad boy era or the going to work era in the sense of how strong of an influence the coaches had on the players, but also how strong of an influence the players had on the coaches. You look back at Chuck Daly and Larry Brown and how they impacted their teams respectively, and then how the players respected them. And you see that already starting to form with Monty and our current group. And that just to me is something that goes a long way and that shows a lot of excitement for the future.
It says a lot to me for Monty to take this job because, he talked about in the press conference his wife's health issues, how his kids are a little bit younger, and to lose his brother in the playoffs, all these personal life things that would typically stop a coach from taking on a new job position. Those are all things where he could be like, to uproot my family while all these things are going on and move to Detroit. I'm going to pass. But for him to still take that job while all these personal life things are going on really says a lot, because I think that just shows how much he wants to start this new culture or restore this new culture that once was the prime Detroit Pistons organization.
Yeah, just you see how great of a coach he is by that one press conference alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's him in Detroit. Whether if you look at even his press conferences while he was in Phoenix or Oklahoma City, etc., you see how good of a coach he is. But now, more so now than ever, in this introductory press conference, did we see how good and great and genuine of a person he is. And then you also see how great of a coach he is. And you're going like, how can we see how great of a coach he is in just a press conference? Well, when he breaks down and how he talks about certain guys and how he talks about the team, how he talks about the front office, Tom Gores, how he just talks about everybody, that's what great coaches do. They don't just sit up there and then break down a couple things and then move on. They actually analyze and break down everybody and what they've done for him. And that's just how great of a coach he is.
What I always liked about Dwayne Casey was his calm presence. And I really think Monty is bringing that same presence in his regime. And I really like that because it gives the players some consistency in like the personality department. I think if you brought in a young Greg Popovich or a young Rick Carlisle, that's totally the opposite personality, where they're a little bit more stern, a little bit more mean, a little bit more rough around the edges. I think that would totally set back the organization and set back the Pistons. And I love that they got a new hire that really matches some of those personality traits that Dwayne Casey had, because then I really feel like the presence in the locker room, the presence on the court will really be the same, and there'll be some consistency there. And I think that's huge, especially with a young team like the Detroit Pistons. I think that new era presence and personality of the coach is really what Dwayne Casey and Monty and guys like Imaduka really bring to the table. And I think that's going to really sit well with our young roster.
Yeah, you look back, and I made reference to the bad boys and the going to work Pistons already, but you look at how big of an influence Chuck Daly had on the team to the point where you have all those 30 for 30s talking about them, and you have Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman and everybody saying that like it was literally a family. That's how I view this new team with Monty, is it's going to become a family, and they're going to be like pretty darn good. That just, you notice these little details within this press conference and just how unique and different he is compared to a lot of the coaches out there. It just it makes you just get all excited when you find this point and that point, and then you just bring it all together. Because just sitting there listening and analyzing everything, it blew me away.
Yeah, and the thing with Monty too is he talked about getting emotional about having all the players there, like how he gets vulnerable. I think that vulnerable is a key word when talking about family. I think when you're vulnerable around guys that you're with 24/7, 7 days a week, you're traveling across the country, maybe the world this season, like they did to Paris. I think you have to have that vulnerable aspect to really get that family feel. And I think that's what Monty's going to bring into the organization. I don't know if Dwayne Casey really had that mentality in the locker room. Maybe he touched on it a little bit. He kind of seems like a pro's pro, kind of keep to himself a little bit as far as the personal business. But I love that Monty talked about how, guys, you're going to realize that in these special moments, I'm going to get emotional because I just appreciate this time so much. I think that's so huge to see that from a head coach, because 20 years ago, coaches were not talking like that at all. They were like the hard-nosed coaches. So I love that Monty is bringing that new era aspect to the Detroit Pistons. And I think that'll sit well with guys like Jaden Ivey, Jalen, and Cade Cunningham, these guys that are very personable.
Yeah, and then you look at also the addition of Steven Silas, of course, and the potential hire of Jarrett Jack. And there's been one other guy, I think his name is Mark Bryant, that's been mentioned. And this dude is supposed to be the big man coach. So he's developed Serge Ibaka, Steven Adams, Domantas Sabonis, DeAndre Ayton, all these
Nice.
guys. And so it's like if you add that in with a young group of bigs and Isaiah Stewart, James Wiseman, Jalen Duren, even Marvin Bagley in that mix. And
Yeah.
and even though he doesn't have the size really, you throw a Eugene Amarui in that mix too.
Yeah.
Just all those guys could get so much better. And I see Wiseman actually becoming a DeAndre Ayton. I can see that comparison.
For sure.
Jalen Duren obviously is the mini Dwight, so he's already there, but just improving these little steps, like Jalen Duren adding a 3-point shot to his game. Imagine how much more lethal he'd be. Just these little things that this coach has done for the past 35 years in the NBA, and he's developed some great talent in this league.
Yeah, a couple people said on Twitter that Jarrett Jack was actually at the press conference. No like media outlets or anything really confirmed that as far as from what I've seen. But if I'm a Mark Bryant coming from, teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'm pretty sure he followed him in Phoenix, I would be ecstatic if I'm Mark Bryant, because I'm looking at this roster and you named them: James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and then you throw on a Eugene Amarui. I mean, if you can get all those guys to take another step up in their skill level, you're a genius. Like you're the man. Like, so you're Mark Bryant. That's just something you can add to your resume if you are able to get some of these guys to kind of start showing in games what we know them and what they can be. And guys like Serge Ibaka and DeAndre Ayton, all those guys you listed off that Mark Bryant's worked with, I mean, the resume stands. I mean, the resume shows that this guy can do something. So I love the fact that Monty knows that if he's going to take on a job, a position like head coach for the Detroit Pistons, he needs the right guys, and he's recruiting them all. And I love it. Bring them all to Detroit, because this next season, baby, I am so excited for mini camp and
Yep.
for all this preseason stuff in summer league, because our summer league staff is going to be stacked, by the way, if Monty gets all these guys. Like, I love the fact that with all these young impressionable guys, Monty's bringing in all the right people, and I just love it. Hopefully we can pay for them all. That's my only thing. Hopefully we
every
can pay them.
single one he's brought in is a former player. And that just shows you,
crucial.
I absolutely love that because they're the only ones. Granted, okay, I love coaches in general, but if you're a player, a former player now coach, they have much more respect and they have a ton of experience, especially if they played in the league for a while. And that's perfect for a young team like this because then you can really develop each kind of knit and grit player out there. And that's what I love because like
Yep.
Mark Bryant, big man coach, perfect for our bigs. Then you add in
Yeah,
Jarrett Jack,
absolutely.
perfect for our guards. You look at Steven Silas and how analytical he is. That's perfect for a whole team. You look at Monty and how he was a wing. That's perfect for guys like uh, Hamadou Diallo, Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Livers, all those guys. So like every single coach, including Monty himself, that he's added in is perfect for every single group of our team.
When talking about Bojan, you just mentioned Bojan. I want people to comment below that if you think it has anything to do of a possible trade coming. I'm not saying anything. I just want the fan base to give some comments, like because it's something that popped in my head. But as soon as he said except Bojan, I'm like, okay, is that saying something? Maybe not. Maybe he's back in his home country. Maybe he's sipping margaritas on the beach in Cancun. I don't know. But either way, comment below if you think Bojan wasn't there because of a possible trade. We'll see. We'll see. But that will do it for today's episode. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below what you thought of the Monty Williams press conference because I would love to know your guys' thoughts. Also, follow Grind Clothing Co. on Instagram. You can find the links to our merch in the YouTube bio and in our YouTube description and in the bio of this YouTube video. So make sure to go follow Grind Clothing Co. and go buy some merch and Revved Up 906 while you're at the gym or library or getting groceries. Make sure to show some love. We will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Woo!